Thank you very much, Yang, for
Thank
being
you.
with us today
Sure.
on Zooming In.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and why you are running for Congress.
Sure. First of all, I'm an immigrant from South Korea. I finished my elementary school, and my parents in the mid-70s, I think it was 75, when my parents came to bring our family to Guam, actually. That's where we first immigrated. I finished my junior high school there, and I went to Hawaii for my high school education. Then I came to California to attend USC. But I have fond memories of growing up on the island of Guam. I was a young girl, and I remember my mom asking me to go down to the beach. She would give me a plastic bag and say, collect cans and bottles. At the time, I didn't know why she was asking me that, but the cans and bottles we collected, she would go recycle them, and whatever the little funds that she was able to collect, she would give it back to church. 45 years ago or plus, when newly arrived immigrants were settling on the island of Guam, especially for my Korean American community, there was not a church that really actually owned its own, to the best of my recollection. And my mom was able to use some of those in her small, modest way to contribute to the church building fund. Later, I found out her effort really helped our church to have that first Korean American church on the island of Guam. And that kind of selflessness, little act, had a lasting impact as I grew up and continued to be an adult. After I graduated from college, I had the opportunity to work in a private sector because I studied business with emphasis in accounting, and I served as a financial analyst with the First Interstate Bancorp, which was a holding company. When that company was sold, and we don't hear about First Interstate these days, I went to work for a local manufacturing company as a controller. And when my second daughter was born, which was in 1990, I was staying home, getting ready to get back into private sector. At the time, I had a small business I also started, and I was getting back into private sector when I had the opportunity to be introduced to then State Senator Ed Royce. And so I started working in his... That was in 1990 or mid to late 1990. So I worked in his state Senate office, and in 1992 he ran for United States Congress and won. So naturally I moved up to serve with him in his congressional office, and the rest is history. So collectively, altogether, I served with him in the congressional office for 21 years. 21 years. Yeah, it was during those times I had the opportunity to really come to know what it's like to be a public servant, to be a person, to be in a position to provide the services that not only the constituents of the 39th district needed, but what it means to be connected and get to know the community, or work with the organizations and get to know the leaders and really listen to the community's issues. And Congressman Ed Royce gave me unprecedented opportunity to work on a lot of the issues, because over the years, I became his interlocutor for U.S.-Korea Interparliamentary Exchange Group, where I was responsible for putting together joint sessions of discussions between the members of U.S. Congress and the members of the National Assembly from Republic of Korea. This is a reciprocating meetings where the two Congresses will meet on an annual basis and talk about issues that define U.S.-Korea issues. And we did the same thing with U.S.-China, U.S.-Japan, and many others. So we can work on issues that define U.S.-Asia relations. And so my portfolio and issues that I was able to work on was like international relations issues, the trade issues, human rights issues. A lot of it had to do with a lot of the issues that a very diverse constituency and the district of the 39th district represented.
Right. Tell me a little bit about your district. I know it's quite diversified, right? It has a lot, like a big Asian population, but tell me about that.
The California 39th district that I'm now running is nested comfortably at the borders of 3 counties, Los Angeles, Orange, and San Bernardino counties. So for the viewers, for their understanding, I would like to explain the cities that are involved. In San Bernardino County, we have all of Chino Hills. In Orange County, we have cities of Anaheim Hills, Yorba Linda, Brea, Placentia, Fullerton, Buena Park, and La Habra. And in LA County, we have the San Gabriel Valley areas of Diamond Bar, Walnut, Rowland Heights, Hacienda Heights, and La Habra Heights. Very diverse. And it's 1/3 Asian, 1/3 Hispanic, and 1/3 Caucasian.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Tell me about your impression of the current political environment in the country, and as an Asian woman Republican candidate running for Congress, what do you think you can bring to this environment? What different? How differently can you do?
Yeah, you know, what we are witnessing right now, both in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C., is dysfunction, chaos. I think people are tired of seeing this disorderliness. And I think I can go to Washington, D.C. to at least bring some common sense, some sanity back. I've experienced when I served in Sacramento as a member of the California State Legislature, the dysfunction there too.
Tell me about that.
I mean, in Sacramento, even though my election helped to break the 2/3 supermajority, the Democrats controlled both Assembly and the Senate. So they were able to push through legislations that is contrary to what I believe in and what my district believed in. I mean, Sacramento, as you know, is going too far to the left right now. I experienced it. As someone who broke the 2/3 supermajority, it's been very difficult to pass any legislation because they will block it every step of the way. So I had to learn early on how to work across the aisle, bring the bipartisanship together to work for a common cause that is helpful for not only my district, but for all Californians. And so there were some times when I introduced the bill. For example, my priority was helping the most vulnerable population.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Do you think that's even possible in California to try to have both sides work together? Do you think that that's still possible?
Well, when I served in 2014 to 2016, I believe there was at least some sense of working together and bring some bipartisanship. And trust me, there were many issues that I was able to do that. Now, if you ask me, 2020, look, we have very little numbers of Republicans serving in the Assembly and very little in the Senate. Even if we stick together, we do not have the numbers that is needed to stop the madness that we are witnessing in Sacramento. But it is not a lost cause. I have faith in Californians that 2020 is the time when they realize that we need to bring some common sense back. And the way to do it is they're going to bring more fiscally responsible and common sense legislators, Republicans, to serve in Sacramento. So once we do that, it's going to take a while. It's going to probably take a few more election cycles to break that 2/3 and hopefully get it as close to 40-40 in the Assembly and 20-20 in the Senate. But I think we can eventually do that. I witnessed dysfunction and clear partisanship when I served in the Assembly. I am running for Congress to make sure that all these insane policies coming out of Sacramento do not become the national norm.
Tell me some of the insane policies that you have witnessed.
You know, as soon as I got out of the state assembly, look, first thing they did when they got the 2/3 supermajority back is to pass SB 1, the $52 billion new gas tax.
Right.
People are fed up with that. And that's the reason why they recalled a state senator in my area in Orange County. And they re-elected a fiscally responsible Republican. That's Ling Chang. And now we are fighting to make sure that we maintain those seats. Another thing that's going on right now, I mean, that's Sacramento. In Washington, look, there is a new bill that quietly slipped through and was introduced late last year, and I think it's moving through the legislative process. It's called the New Way Forward legislation, New Way Forward Act. People are finding out more about this, and what it does is the Democrats are now pushing forward the open border policy, rewarding those law-breaking illegal immigrants that are here in the United States, protecting them. You cannot, if that bill passes through, you cannot even knowingly coordinate with the law enforcement agencies to deport the criminal illegal aliens. That's how bad this kind of legislation is. This is something that people need to know about. I think over the next course of few weeks, few months, people are going to find out about this.
Okay. So isn't that what the sanctuary city laws already do? But you said this is even worse.
Sanctuary cities, yes. There are California state of California is already a sanctuary state because they passed it. There are several cities that allow that. But our Orange County area where I am in, we announced it. Orange County Board of Supervisors took a stand to oppose sanctuary law. Mm-hmm. Several cities in Orange County opposed that. I strongly oppose that too. Mm-hmm. Now, if that's not enough, at the federal level, I'm talking about this New Way Forward Act. If you're talking about, we need to protect the...
This is the federal level.
This is the federal level, yes.
Sanctuary city, yeah. Sanctuary state law.
Yes, okay. Yes. And that's what it is. I mean, House Democrats are embracing the open border policy, and this is a clear evidence of that. Mm-hmm. I'm focused on protecting our communities, but if this kind of legislation passes through at the national level, mm-hmm. I don't know what's going to happen. How can we protect the law-abiding, even legal immigrants, law-abiding citizens, because our too far to the left socialist legislators are pushing this kind of legislation to protect those illegal immigrants that are in the United States. We cannot deport them, and we cannot even put them in jail because we need to protect them. Mm-hmm. So where is the priority? We are protecting those they're protecting the law-breaking individuals over the law-abiding citizens.
Right.
And that's clearly wrong. The Democrats are going too far to the left that they are now embracing what we usually said is a fringe ideas, such as like the federal minimum wage. Mm-hmm. Why don't we leave it up to the employers in the private sector to determine how they are going to reward their hardworking employees? They know better, instead of the government mandating how much to pay your employees. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the, issues that the Democrats are pushing. But they seem, compared to what I'm talking about, New Way Forward legislation, for example, it makes those kind of legislation just fringe ideas. Bernie Sanders embraced that idea, and even his campaign employees are not getting paid the $15 an hour. When they complain to Bernie Sanders, for example, they conveniently cut the number of hours that their staff is working, so technically they can say they are paying $15 an hour, but they are not, because they cut the number of hours. So this is the kind of thing that they are trying to push through, which I oppose.
Mm-hmm. Your district is traditionally a Republican district, but in 2016, Hillary Clinton carried it. How is the situation now?
So our district is really a toss-up district. Mm-hmm. And the last two election cycles, Democrats did a good job, I should say. I mean, they spent a lot of money to register more Democrats. But much of it also, I believe, has to do with Republicans leaving the party to become independents. And so the change
Would you say that's a big trend?
That was the trend we saw in 2018. And that made it difficult for the Republicans.
What's the reason behind that?
I think 2016, when they saw, there were a lot of Republicans who are not happy with our president. And I think they felt that, they want to become independent so they can voice their ideas or express their displeasure or disenfranchisement by leaving the party. But I think now, 2020, people are either coming back to the party or they remain as an independent voters, but they also see the results that this administration is producing. So whatever one's view is about our current president, I believe they are going to feel very confident about re-electing him for the second term when you look at the economy that is doing well. And as an Asian American, our Asian American community that live in the district and the people that I interact with on a regular basis, they are very pleased as far as the economy is concerned, because the economy is doing well and the small businesses are doing better. And they tell me the African American, even Hispanic community, the Asian American community, their job market is stronger this time. And our economy is much stronger under this administration.
So the 2018 election is, probably to a large extent, it's a referendum on President Trump. For you, for your election.
Yes, it was very difficult for me as a, to run as a Republican in California is very tough.
Very tough.
But in 2018, it became an open seat when Congressman Ed Royce announced retirement at the end of that term. I ran at the time, but because it was an open seat, there were a lot of Republicans, a lot of Democrats. There were 17 candidates running in 2018 primary. I thankfully, with the support of the district and the people that believed in me, I became the first place winner out of the 2018 primary. But I ran against well-funded or self-funding candidate, Gil Cisneros, who is a California lottery winner. And as you know, he spent close to $10 million of his own money. I was completely outspent, not only by my own opponent, but DCCC and the Democrats spent millions of dollars to make sure that I didn't make it in that election cycle. But I was not the only Republican that was having a hard time in 2018. The Democrats and DCCC, they poured in a lot of money into California, especially in Orange County where I'm running in, to make sure that the 7 Republican congressional seats can be flipped, because those are the 7 seats that Hillary Clinton won in 2016. They saw an opportunity to take these seats and flip it to the Democrats. So you heard a lot of the blue waves, and I truly believed that blue wave will bypass the 39th district, because this is the district I know. I worked there for over 2 decades with my former boss, Congressman Ed Royce. I also represented a part of that district in my California State Assembly. I had a very strong showing and support in that overlapping district. So I was very confident, regardless of how much was spent against me, I can hold my lead. And actually, if you saw, I actually won on election night by a huge margin. It wasn't until after a week and 2 weeks later when we found out all of the ballots that came in later and being counted were all turning downward. So it was a very difficult cycle for not only me, but for Republicans running in 2018. Again, it was, I believe, a referendum on our sitting president. Whoever is occupying the White House and during the midterm, that is historically how it happens. But 2020 is different. The way that the Republicans were wiped out, we are determined to fight back and win some of those seats on the Republican side, we only need to win 18 seats across the country. And the leadership is focused on flipping our seat.
Okay. Tell me what happened in 2018. I know you went to DC. You won. You went to DC. You had your office. And then 2 weeks later, you were told to go. Tell me about that.
Yes.
What was it like?
So when I received the invitation to come to Washington, D.C. and participate in the freshman orientation, it was very difficult because our race was not called. I think my race and one other in West Virginia, I believe, or in East Coast somewhere, were two races that were still not being called. But I went to Washington, D.C. because I was still in the lead. And I truly hope that we can hold the lead. So I went through the entire week of freshman orientation. I participated in our Republican caucus leadership elections. I participated in helping to vote for the leadership that we have, from our leader Kevin McCarthy to policy chairwoman Liz Cheney, NRCC chairman Tom Emmer, and so forth. I was very proud. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I don't know if this lead will hold. I was getting report from the ground from my staff who was watching the counting process, ballot counting process in LA County, Orange County, San Bernardino County. But it was in LA County Register of Voters when my team of volunteers and observers were witnessing more ballots being turned in. And the ballots being asked to be counted, and they were turning the other way. Most of them were Democrat ballots. And so when I heard that report while I was in Washington, D.C., attending the freshman orientation, I said, you know what? There is no need to continue. I'm going to take the high road and just call it. And so the night that I came back from the orientation, I called my opponent, Gil Cisneros, and congratulated him. I wished him well for the benefit of the 39th district and for the residents that live in the 39th district. I really wished him well to do his job, to represent us.
There was something wrong with that process, and ballot harvesting was a well-known tactic that the Democrats did. Do you think that has anything to do with your loss?
I truly believe the Democrats did a better job of utilizing those two new laws that came into place. And that first one is the motor voter bill. Anyone who goes to DMV and gets your license or renew it, you are automatically registered to vote unless you opt out. But not too many people know that it is an opt-out process. Even my husband, in March, before the election, went to renew his license and later found that he was registered to vote again. I mean, that's the kind of fraud or flawed or fraud, I mean, whatever you want to call it. That motor voter bill contributed to registering millions of new ineligible voters, and they were on the voter file. Now, ballot harvesting is the second law. Democrats utilized it to their advantage and really invested a lot in hiring people and training them early on, starting 2017. So when the time came, they had more resources and manpower to go knock on door to harvest the ballots. Republicans didn't do as well, or not better prepared, I must say, or maybe to a certain degree, our Republican Party was maybe complacent, that we never thought, who would have thought Orange County will turn blue? Even if we knew there was a blue wave coming, even when we realized DCCC was pouring in millions of dollars, I think in the back of our minds, or the leadership and the party thought Orange County will not turn blue, but it did. So to me, it was not just a blue wave, it was a blue tsunami that hit us in 2018. And we just have to do a better job.
Okay, what about this year?
This year, we're better prepared. One thing, the leadership is better prepared.
How how are you going to combat ballot harvesting and all this,
We're working very closely with our team of volunteers, working with community organizations, we're working with churches. We're really educating them about this new law called the ballot harvesting law. And I think by now most people know what it is. We just have different ways of doing it. We're going to do it too. We're going to do it the legal way. We're going to do it the right way. And we're going to ask the churches and organizations, the community centers, wherever you are gathering, to talk about this and allow us to put in the ballot drop boxes at your place of residence or churches, and encourage people to bring in their filled out ballots, not empty ballots.
No, empty ballots.
Filled out ballots and drop it off in a securely locked ballot drop boxes.
Do you have evidence that the Democrats have filled ballots, blank ballot? Or
I couldn't tell you personally, but I've heard a lot of reports and people calling our office after the election and telling us different stories. What we did was we gathered those calls, the people complaining, and we turned that over to the Republican National Lawyers Association, and we turned that over to the Republican Party, and we asked them to look into those. And as you know, there was a lawsuit filed by Election Integrity Project, as well as Judicial Watch and the Republican National Lawyers Association. So the lawsuit resulted in a court settlement that says we need to clean out these voter files, so we can clean out those people who are no longer with us, meaning dead people. We found thousands and thousands of people who are over the age of 100 years old voted. So I believe there were a lot of people that voted from the grave. We need to clean those records out, and I don't know how our authorities or election officials would be able to identify those the people that are on the voter file who are not U.S. citizens, because they were registered to vote automatically at DMV. Many of them are just legal citizens, or even students who are here just to get their driver's license, or even maybe 17-year-olds or 17-and-a-half-year-olds who are getting their driver's permit. They're all registered to vote, knowingly or unknowingly. So we have a mountain of task to clean out the voter file. But by March primary, we're not going to see all of those millions of ineligible voters that we've identified being taken off the voter file. So as long as your name is on the voter file, our goal is to go after every single one of them, to try to knock on their doors, make sure that we call them and ask them to turn in their ballots. I also want to make sure that people understand we have a new voting system now. Everyone in Orange County and LA County, if you're registered to vote, whether you request it or not, you will be sent vote by mail ballots. And you will be able to vote by mail, and we encourage everyone to turn in your ballot by mailing it back as soon as you get it, or there are voting centers throughout the county in LA and Orange County to drive through and find where the voting center is and turn it in there. Or we have 11 days to vote now. So from February 22 until March 3rd, you can bring your filled out ballot and turn it in. And then there is that other option. That's how we're going to do ballot harvesting. Allow your place of residence or businesses or churches to have a securely locked ballot box to be placed there so you can bring your ballots then.
Let's talk about money. In 2018, bunch billionaires like Bloomberg dumped millions of dollars in California. Your opponent is someone who won the lottery ticket. So how are you doing money-wise? Do you have enough funding and resources?
Well, thankfully, since I jumped back in the race, the first quarter that I announced, that would be the second quarter of 2019, I actually raised more than my opponent did. And I ended 2019 in the fourth quarter, for example, I actually outraised him too, again. And I started the 2020 election cycle with more cash on hand. These are individual donors that I've received contributions from. I am not a millionaire like my opponent. Therefore, zero money has been put into my campaign out of my pocket. So I feel very confident that the people of the 39th district and people from all across the country have responded to my plea to support my candidacy so we can have the resources to fight back against my opponent, Nancy Pelosi, and the Democrats' fundraising machine. So I am in a very good position at the moment, but as you said, I am running against self-funding California lottery winner. He could easily write a one big check and maybe spend another 10 million, but I don't know if he will. The fact is, so far he hasn't given any money, and I believe he has $500,000 that is owed to himself from the last election cycle. So I don't know if his wife will be willing to have him write another $10 million check. We'll see. But one thing for sure is we will probably be outspent because Democrats, as you mentioned, are pouring in millions of dollars. And DCCC not too long ago announced they're going to bring in high six-figure millions of dollars back into California and in Orange County. They are targeting my district and surrounding districts in Orange County to make sure that California Republicans don't have a voice in Washington, D.C. But I will make sure we may be outspent, but I will never be outworked.
Tell me about that, because I know your friend Michelle Steele is also running for Congress, and
yes.
She has said a great deal of you and how hard you work. Describe to me your typical day.
Wow. Can you tell this little... I mean, so we are going nonstop. There is not enough time in a day. I always tell my friends that I wish there was 25 hours in a day. But typical is like, wake up very early in the morning. Sometimes, depending on where I am meeting with the pastors in San Gabriel Valley area, just like this Wednesday I did. They meet every Wednesday, and we pray together. And I mean, this is really...
That's your priority.
That's my priority. And then I'll be going to different events throughout the day, throughout the district, from Chino Hills to Anaheim Hills to Yorba Linda, Brea, La Habra. I could be in Buena Park, Fullerton, having coffee meetings. I could be in Walnut, Diamond Bar, attending Lunar New Year events. I could be in Westminster, Garden Grove areas, celebrating Tet Festival with our Vietnamese community. I could be in Fullerton area celebrating our Seol, which is Korean Lunar New Year, with my Korean families and constituents. I could be anywhere there is any events going on. And thankfully, I am invited to many of the events that's going on. So I do the best I can. We have a lot of conflict with events, but we ask for their understanding. If I cannot stay from the beginning till the end, they understand. And now, these days, knowing how crunched our time is leading up to the March primary, my friends tell me, you're not supposed to be here. Just get out of here. Wherever you need to go, 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 go. Do your part. So it's really from very early in the morning, as soon as the dawn comes up, to sometimes my staff and I mean, there is time when we got up at 4 o'clock in the morning to start very early, and it wasn't until close to 1 a.m. that we got back home.
Oh my goodness.
So this is typical.
How is your family coping with this?
Thankfully, I have very, very supportive family. My husband, for example, he always says his number one job is to make sure that I eat well, make sure that I sleep.
Because you forget to eat.
It's not that I'm trying to watch my figure or anything, but it's just that when you're working, you just tend to forget. So that's I worry my friends and family around me. But my husband is my number one supporter. He's my number one strategist. I mean, he's run campaigns.
What does he do?
He's now retired, but he's been a nonprofit executive for over 30 years. And now he also is a political consultant and has run campaigns, dozens and dozens of them at the local level. So I benefit from his expertise and advice. So, now he devotes 100% of his time helping me. And my 4 children are all grown up. They're married, but they have their own talents in their respective ways. So they all help me. I am very blessed to have a family that support me. But also, you mentioned my dear friend. I call her my sister. I mean, we encourage each other. We raised our family together. We used to take family vacations together. I don't know if she told you about this one incident. It's not just one incident. She would say, Young, you do that up to me all the time. I mean, when we go to family vacations together, there was that one time when my husband and I and other friends went off to play golf. But we left our 4 children with Michelle, and she was taking care of my 4 children, 2 of her own daughters, and 2 of her nephews, right? She was responsible for 8 children while we went off to play golf. Well, I feel really bad, but I mean, we talk about it with laughing matter right now, but at the time, I'm pretty sure it was not a happy thing because we finished our 18 and then on the way back, we found, oh my God, the sun is still up and maybe we can play another 9 holes. So we ended up playing 27 holes. So can you imagine by the time we got back, she was like really tired, but she always had a smile on her face. And she said, did you have a good time? I mean, she's not one to get angry so much. She doesn't get mad. It's just one incident, but that's how close we are. We raise our family together. We've been friends for decades. And so I'm really glad that we are running together this time.
Did you inspire each other or just a coincidence?
It's, I knew this is the time that she needs to win. She had her eyes set on running for Congress. And she knew someday she would run for that seat if and when Congressman Dennemeyer retires. We didn't think that he would leave the office the way he did in 2018. But I knew, I'm not surprised that she would run for this seat. And I have 100% faith in her that she's going to take that seat back.
And 2018 was the first time for both of you, right?
She didn't run in 2018.
Oh yeah, that's right.
She ran for her re-election to the supervisors.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, so
this is her first time.
Right.
This is my rematch against Gil Cisneros. But I'm confident that our hard work will pay off in 2020. The political environment is different in 2020 than 2018. Gil Cisneros is not a first-time campaigner. And he made certain promises as a candidate in 2018 that he would be a moderate, but his record doesn't show that. He went to join the Progressive Caucus, and he said he's not going to support Nancy Pelosi if he's elected to be the speaker, but that's the first vote he cast. And he said he's not going to take any PAC money. I think over 40% or close to 50% of the money he raised to date has been from those PACs. And so he is going back on his promises he made to the voters and to the 39th district residents. But that's just talking about what he said he will do, and the record doesn't reflect that. So I look forward to really making that apples to apples and oranges to oranges comparison. My record as a California State Assembly member, being fiscally responsible and really looking out for the taxpayers, always fighting against tax increases, making sure that we protect Prop 13, and many others, is a proven record that we can compare against Gil Cisneros' record that he has so far in Congress, which is why Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association has endorsed me. The small business organizations, the Orange County Business Council, the BizPAC has endorsed me, the United States U.S. Chamber of Commerce. I'm the first candidate running for 2020 cycle, went to talk to U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and we had a great conversation, and they support me as they did in 2018. So there is that comparison. People are going to see who is pro-business candidate, and the record will reflect that. I really look forward to continuing my service to represent the 39th District and California, and again, more importantly, to bring some sanity back, to break that gridlock. And gosh, our country needs a tiger mom like me.
You call yourself a tiger mom?
I was actually born in the year of the tiger too.
Oh, okay.
So, and my 4 children grew up, and they all turned out okay. So I must have done something right.
So you're really a tiger mom?
Yes, I am.
Okay, tell me about that.
I mean, I may have been hard on my children when they were growing up, but, you know, they all, like I said, I respected their individualism. I respect their opinions. And even when we have Bible studies at home, believe it or not, when they were young, until they left to go to college, we had Bible studies at home on a regular basis. And if they make any mistake or they do something wrong during the day, I would know about it, but I was not one to confront them directly. Because I have a policy and my husband has a policy. You do not criticize your children in front of other people, or you don't tell them, you did this, so you must be a bad person. No, we waited until when we had our Bible studies, and we used the Bible phrases or Bible verses to actually indirectly talk about the wrongs they may have done, and then we'll ask them, what do you think Jesus would have done in this case? And each one of my kids would know that that they know what I'm talking about. But I always make sure they know, regardless of what bad behaviors you may have caused, Mom and Dad loves you no matter what. It's what you did that is wrong, we're pointing out. So yes, I was hard on them, but they all turned out okay. They all graduated. And you know what? My husband and I went to USC, but none of them went to USC. It was their choice to go to public universities. My first daughter went to UCI. My second, third, and fourth, they went to Cal State Fullerton. Go Titans! So I'm very pleased, and I'm very proud of every single one of my children.
Why don't they want to go to USC? Because it's too expensive to like a rich kid school. I went to USC too.
Fight on. No, to them it was. I don't know what. I think the finance probably would have had something to do with it, because they know their mom and dad are hardworking parents. We're not wealthy. We're not rich millionaires, but they knew that they didn't want to burden us too much. But we were very fortunate to be able to pay for their tuition, so my children will graduate without the mountain of debt, because for the millennials, for the young students, college age voters are concerned about student loans, right? And being financially stable. These are really important issues. So they thank us for being able to support them through their colleges. But afterwards, if you want to go to grad school, they know it's on you. We did our part. But they chose UCI, they chose Cal State Fullerton, because it was more important for them. They feel that the colleges they chose provide the majors that they can study in.
Yeah. What is the most important value you taught your kids?
Be responsible, be courteous. And again, the same thing that I employ in my life. Ronald Reagan, I think the other day was, just this week was Ronald Reagan's birthday, right? And what he said always resonate with me, and this is what I live by, and this is what I tell my children too, as I was raising them up. Imagine what we can accomplish together if you don't care who takes the credit for it. And my children have done just that, and it was important for me to instill in them the biblical values, because they were born and raised in a Christian family, as I and my husband were. So that is very important. And now, as an adult, individually and in their respective churches that they belong to, they play a role in that. And so I'm very, very glad and grateful that they have grown up to be a responsible, God-fearing adults. Mm-hmm. And as parents, I couldn't ask for anything more than that.
Wonderful. Anything else you want to say?
Gosh, we talked a lot. We talked about my background, my values. My mom's values that she taught me as I was growing up on the island of Guam, with that recycling story I share with you, it really is important. And as I was raising my children, I did the same thing with my kids. Mm-hmm. I told them.
And do you think this country needs that? Being responsible, being just working hard and don't take things for granted?
Exactly. Look, I'm an immigrant from South Korea. And Republican Party, to me, has always been a party of growth, opportunity. They gave a lot of opportunity to succeed if you work hard for it. Mm-hmm. And to this day, it's the party that gives someone like me unlimited opportunity to realize the American dream. And I want people from all over the world to be able to come to America legally and realize the American dream. Mm-hmm. And Republican Party has been branded as Grand Old Party, but I'm running to change that narrative, that Republican Party is Grand Opportunity Party. And I truly believe, despite all these challenges that we face, America is a great nation. And I believe, as an immigrant who became a proud United States citizen, I and immigrants have a moral obligation to do our part to make America great.
Mm-hmm. So running as an immigrant woman, Korean, does that play to your advantage or disadvantage?
With so much conversation going on about immigration discussion, it's important that someone like me, an immigrant, have a voice and have a seat at the table to give our immigrant perspective about the immigration reform and the policies that needs changing. Immigration, America offers an opportunity for many of us to come here legally and realize that American dream. We are against illegal immigration, which is why I believe any discussion that talk about reforming immigration policy needs to include securing the border, because we live in an era of constant global terrorism, human trafficking, drug smuggling. All these happen if we have an open border, which is why I believe we need to secure that border. That's why I talk about this New Way Forward legislation that is just being introduced and not too many people know about. This type of legislation is bad. This is what the far left socialist Democrats are trying to push through, to reward those law-breaking illegal aliens be protected over the law-abiding citizens.
Okay. Last question. I know you speak Korean?
Yes.
So is your English better than your Korean now, or your Korean still?
You know,
speak like still very fluent Korean?
I am fluent in both right now, but I came here right after the elementary school, and until I graduated from college, I was immersed in English. And so English is comfortable for me, but conversationally, I was very comfortable speaking Korean, but, there are certain vocabularies that I just was not comfortable with. But this is the thing. Working with Congressman Ed Royce for over 2 decades and serving as his Director of Asian Affairs, working on these policy issues, I had opportunity to engage with the Korean community and with other Asian communities. And I had to oftentimes explain the complicated policy in the language that they can understand. And so I was forced to learn Korean, forced to understand the different vocabularies that are very technical. So I feel comfortable now. But what made me more confident and fluent in Korean is when I was serving as a television talk show host.
Really?
Yes.
What was that?
So during the time I worked with Congressman Ed Royce, I was given the opportunity to host a talk show. Right now it's LA 18, KSCI Channel 18. It was an international media network. I was asked to host a LA Soul. So it was a weekly talk show where I would have a guest on my program talking about current affairs, public affairs, community affairs.
In
and
Korean.
That was in Korean. That's how I became very fluent and comfortable. I did that from about 1998 until 2005. Prior to that, I was with Korean Television Enterprises, KTE. So for about a year and a half, I had my talk show there also. And then many years later, in 2011, I was asked to host a second season of Real Talk on Arirang TV. So that was done in English. And that was...
That's a Korean TV network?
Yes. So I thought it was very interesting because in America, the English television station would ask me to host a weekly show in Korean. And then later, I was asked by Arirang TV, which is South Korea-based television station, to host a weekly talk show in English.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Can you say something in Korean? I'm just curious.
Yes.
For our audience.
Yes. 저는 이번 39지구의 연방 하원의원으로 출마한 영킴입니다. 2020년도에는 최선을 다해서 여러분들의 기대에 부응할 수 있도록 최선을 다해서 꼭 당선되도록 노력하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Sounds great. I don't know. I have no idea what you said.
I asked the viewers that I am running for my rematch in 39th District this year, and I'll do everything I can in my power to make sure that we win this time.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.